Hello, welcome to, I forgot what number episode we're up to on the Outside Fence. It doesn't matter. This is the Caulfield Cup and Everest Day review show for the Outside Fence. As always, I'm your host, Tristan Heffernan, and with me is Stuart Balls-Brown. Balls, we had a wet track there at Caulfield, but it looked like it played beautifully to me, really.
Yeah, it did play pretty well considering. Going into the meeting, I thought the fence might go off sort of fairly early in the meeting. That was, I suppose, the bit of an angle I took into the meeting, but was obviously keen to see a few races before I'd absolutely stamp that. But yeah, the fence seemed to hold up pretty well. It was only really sort of the last couple of races that it was really noticeable that they were getting away from the inside. Perhaps a few races fall out in the straight and you sort of wanted to get off the fence a bit. But yeah, I don't think too many people could have had any complaints about the track, given the rain they had.
Yeah, when that rain comes, it's understandable for the fence to go off at some stage during the day. We've almost been cheerleaders for this Caulfield track the last few weeks, but it's doing a really good job. Now, on the show, we're going to go through 3 races from Caulfield. We're going to do the Cup, we're going to do the Classic, and we're going to do the Moonga, and then we're going to have a look at the big Everest race up in Sydney. So that's the show ahead. We'll go straight into the Caulfield Cup here. This is one of the best Caulfield Cups I can remember for a while, actually, Balls. I was really impressed with this race. What did you think of the overall strength and how it was run?
Yeah, it was a pretty decent field considering it seems like the race has copped a bit of flack in the past few years with a lot of horses, say, bypassing it, not wanting to risk a penalty for the Melbourne Cup. So, yeah, the field held up pretty well this time. As far as the speed they've gone at here, they haven't gone sort of too slowly. It's just a slightly below average speed for this sort of class of race. I wouldn't really say the speed has sort of played a part in sort of the result of the race. Most horses would have got their chance.
Yeah, obviously all the talk pre-race, which we sort of mentioned in the preview show that we did, was the lack of a genuine leader and how there was not a lot of pace on paper, but the UK horse there, Dashing Willoughby, kicked through and set a reasonable tempo. Now, was there anything as they go out of the straight here the first time that caught your eye that was at a disadvantage during the run?
Well, obviously Finch was a notable horse there in the predominantly green colours with the pink cap. He's about midfield. He gets caught 3 wide, no cover. For pretty much the whole race. So, and to only been beaten a bit over 2 lengths, did a great job. One of the favourites in the race was Anthony Van Dyke, who's currently pretty much sort of second, third, last at the moment in those dark blue Coolmore colours. He was a horse I expected to roll forward in the race, but they elected to, they sort of had a bit of a look out of the gates and then they elected to go back, surprisingly. So it settled back, and so did Prince of Arran, who's sort of the widest runner there. Sort of he comes out and has a bit of a look as well, but then was going to get caught wide. So Jamie Carr off Steve's back and actually ends up last for most of the race.
Yeah, so the eventual winner is there in the middle of the pack there, very elegant in those red and blue colours. What did you make? I'm going to run the video here. What did you make of Master of Wine going up to sit second? This is a bit like Craig Williams, put him on, roll the dice and go forward and see what happens.
Yeah, I thought he'd be sort of on speed in that sort of first maybe 6 horses, but yeah, didn't think he'd be up second, but it's always a chance with Craig Williams in the saddle. He's generally a pretty positive type rider, and I tend to think he might have thought he'll get there early and then something would come round and he'd be able to sort of get a nice bit of cover there, but that obviously didn't eventuate. It's obviously probably not ideal for this horse to be sitting outside the leader at 2,400, but he pretty much has had every chance. Like, there's probably a little excuse you could make for him there, but he's been a bit disappointing to my eye.
Okay, let's look at this race from predominantly looking forward to the Melbourne Cup. First of all, let's talk about the winner, Very Elegant. She got a half-kilo penalty for this win. That would do Connections, well, that wouldn't sway them at all from heading on to the Melbourne Cup, as that was the original plan, I would imagine. What do you make of a run and win here, Balls? Because she did get the track to suit, and she got a really beautiful run there for Mark Zahra.
Yeah, she definitely had the conditions to suit. She actually did get a bit keen early in the race, as she can do, and she sort of had to put up with Finch on her outside. Sort of, he was trying to get one off the fence and push her to the fence a bit. So there's a bit of merit there in her win. After that, yeah, as you mentioned, she did sort of have every chance. She sort of tracked up nicely down the side here and pulled to the outside and had clear running in the straight, but. It was a very strong win. Even though the second horse was sort of coming at her at the line, she looked to be clearly holding it, and she definitely goes into the Melbourne Cup as a great chance. I think only getting a half kilo seems a bit light to me, but good luck to Connections. But yeah, if she got similar conditions on Melbourne Cup Day, she's definitely a big chance there.
Yeah, half a kilo. You say a bit light. I'll go further. I think it's an absolute joke. She's only got a half a kilo for winning this. Obviously, her and Anthony Van Dyke, who they're talking about one of the best horses in the world at 2,400 metres, and they've cleared out from the third. I don't see how she couldn't possibly have got at least a kilo, but
it does seem like an invitation to run to me.
It does. Now, obviously, we like to see the good horses running these races, but if I was one of the Beaten Brigade and she's just made off with the 3 million and turns up with half a kilo more, I'd be pretty disappointed. Now, as I run the film here, we're going to see Anthony Van Dyke there still third last with Prince of Arran on his back. The Chosen One was one who ran a placing of big odds. He's there back on the inside, about sixth in those bright fluoro greeny yellowy colours with the pinkish cap. Any other horses you think we should keep an eye on in the run home here, Balls?
Yeah, well, Avilius is definitely one you can keep an eye on. It's in the Godolphin blue, well back on the fence there. He is probably the hard luck story of the race. As the replay rolls, you'll see near the home turn, John Allen, his rider, gets a nice run through the field, but then as a gap opens in the straight, it quickly closes again, and he cops some significant interference.
All right, let's roll this, and we'll talk about Anthony Van Dyke. Now, by all reports, they're going to go on to the Melbourne Cup. He came here as a genuine 2,400 metre horse. The 2 miles seems to be a big query. Do you think we should pay too much attention to his overseas form once he gets beyond that 2,400, or was there so much merit to this run here that he goes in as a live chance in the Melbourne Cup?
Yeah, I'd have Very Elegant ahead of it for sure in the Melbourne Cup. So, I'm not giving Anthony Van Dyke a huge hope. Obviously, the Melbourne Cup, there's going to be some more competitors coming in, horses like Russian Camelot and Tiger Moth, who sort of head the market at the moment. So, I think it's going to probably be a tougher race than the Caulfield Cup, as it generally is. But yeah, I'd only say Anthony Van Dyke's a bit player at best in the Cup.
What if we get to Cup Day and it's a firm track? How does that change your opinion for these two, the first 2 horses home here?
It would probably more obviously make me think Very Elegant's less of a chance, more than Anthony Van Dyke's any greater chance, I don't think. Like 58.5 kilos at 3,200, you'd have to be one of the great horses of all time to win a Melbourne Cup carrying that kind of weight, particularly for a horse who's sort of going past, his pet distance. So, I just think a firm track would obviously hurt Very Elegant, but yeah, I don't necessarily think it's going to be any... obviously, Anthony Van Dyke likes a firm track, but I don't think it's really going to propel him enough to be able to win a Melbourne Cup.
Okay, sounds like he's missed his chance here, Anthony Van Dyke. What about the Chosen One? How do we find it running third for starters? If someone said to you before the race, the Chosen One's going to run third here, make me a case for how this is possible. Could you have made a case for it at all?
No, not really. It was wide in the Herbert Power the week prior, and so it didn't have much luck. Its actual first up win this preparation at Flemington over sort of 1,700 metres was very impressive. But the subsequent 2 runs had only been fair. I actually backed this horse in the Caulfield Cup last year when he was coming off a win in the Herbert Power, and he pretty much had every chance that day and was only fair. So he's run a lot better here today. Obviously settling close to the speed, that sort of below average tempo, and got a nice split in the straight. Probably suited him as well. I've got no doubt he's run to his best here, and it's obviously trained by Murray Baker as well, who's a bit of a genius when he brings his stayers to Australia.
Okay. Any chance going to a Melbourne Cup with him? Does he need the sting out of the track, or is he all right top of the ground?
I think he's okay top of the ground as well, but I wouldn't give him much of a chance in Melbourne Cup.
Cool. Now, there's a line of three behind that are all worth talking about. Prince of Arran, who on the preview show you talked about just growing a leg when he comes to Australia and not paying too much attention to his overseas form. This just looks like an absolutely slashing Melbourne Cup trial to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's run really well here. He's followed Anthony Van Dyke into the race, so sort of had a nice back to follow there. But yeah, got to the outside, has run the fastest last 200 of the race. And yeah, he's definitely on track to run right at the pointy end of the Melbourne Cup again this year. Whether he can win, obviously you'll be potting him because he's had a few chances, but I'd probably have him thereabouts in the sort of winning chances. But whether a horse like Russian Camelot or say a Tiger Moth who's got a bit more class than him could be the big difference on the day.
I don't think I will be potting him actually. I've started to change my mind on that theory in the past couple of years. Talking about that theory, obviously, if you didn't watch the preview show, my theory is I was always very strong of if they've had a go at it before and they can't do it, I don't really like their chances of doing it again. But it's changed a little bit the past few years, I think, where we've got these genuine 3,200 metres horses coming out from overseas. Talking about that, we've got Finch who's going to go back there again. Seems a very typical Finch run here, but 3 wide all the way. Has that been a bit harsh on him? He's done a bloody good effort once again to finish as close as he has.
Yeah, he's run sensational again. He's been wide again. So, yeah, he's going to be thereabouts Melbourne Cup Day, and I can imagine him sort of finishing the pointy end once again. But as we mentioned, I think in the preview show, he seems to be a bit of a horse that just lacks that killer blow that you really need to take out these kind of races. He's a sort of horse who would be a great place chance, great top 5 sort of chance, but whether he can win, I've just got some reservations.
Yeah, I'm sort of in your corner, but it does feel a bit wrong to sort of make that assessment off that run. It was such a good run, and if you didn't have the past history that he did, we'd be saying, oh, what a performance this was. Speaking of that, we talk about Avilius, who you pointed out for the run home and he was unlucky, but it seems a little bit like Anthony Van Dyke to me with Avilius in terms of this spring. This was his go, I think. Even though he was big odds, the sting out of the track, he's obviously run really well, but I'm not sure what we can find him in after that unless he comes back in grade to even something like a Zipping Classic or something. But he's got to find wet ground, doesn't he?
Yeah, perhaps if he went to a McKinnon and found a wet track in a McKinnon, he'd be a good chance in that. But yeah, race like the McKinnon or, as you say, the Zipping Classic, something like that at the end of the spring, wherever he can find some bit of sting out of the track, he can be competitive in that sort of 2,000 to 2,400 metre distance range.
Okay, they look clearly the runs of the race to me, but there's a few other horses in the Beaten Brigade that they're talking about for different races upcoming. First of all, they're talking about Cox Plates with Buckhurst. What did you make of his run? Is this just a throw at the stumps with Buckhurst?
Yeah, I'd say he's no chance in a Cox Plate based off this run. He sort of had every chance to my eye in this race. Perhaps didn't run the 2,400 out strongly, but the Cox Plate would be a better race than this. And so, yeah, he'd be a place chance at best in a Cox Plate, I would have thought.
Okay, and last of all, before we move on from this race, I want to touch on the 4-year-olds that came through that Adelaide Carnival. We've got Warning, who has been racing really well this prep, Dalasan, likewise, and Toffee Tongue, almost likewise. None of them have made it into the finish here, but is there any of them that you would like to take forward in the Carnival?
Yeah, I couldn't really find an excuse for any of them on Saturday. I suppose the big thing with Warning would be getting back to Flemington for a Melbourne Cup, but even given, I suppose, his apparent dislike for Caulfield, I still probably would have liked to seen a bit more from him on Saturday. But yeah, getting back to Flemington would be huge for Warning, but he'd be the sort of horse who'd probably be like sort of a top 8, top 10 chance in a Melbourne Cup, I would have thought, rather than a win chance.
Feels like a bit of a who shot the barman, even money to run top 10 type type horse to me that would make a bit of a bet.
Yeah, don't remind me of that. Who shot the ball in the top 10? It's one of the sickest beats you ever see.
That's Frankie Dettori all over again, wasn't it? Now, Dalasan Toffee Tongue, you're against Dalasan here at the trip. I don't think anything went on to make me doubt that call there. Him and Toffee Tongue, where do they go?
Yeah, Dalasan, maybe the paddock, maybe to a McKinnon. Toffee Tongue, I'm not sure whether they'd press onto a Melbourne Cup with Toffee Tongue, but maybe even a Matriarch Stakes for her over the Carnival at Flemington, or sort of horse, could end up in a Zipping Classic at the end of the spring. But, both horses I'd be very surprised. Obviously, Dalasan, I'd say no hope they're pushing onto a Melbourne Cup, and I'd be surprised if they did with Toffee Tongue.
I'll let that run through. Last one, Master of Wine. Disappointed. Does he push on?
Yeah, well, he may go to a McKinnon now. I would have thought. I doubt he goes to a Melbourne Cup. Once they're obviously up and going, that was sort of, I suppose, his poorest run for his preparation. So it might be worth having one more throw at the stumps in a McKinnon, freshen you up over the next couple of weeks.
He's hard to back though, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't back him in a McKinnon. I'd want to see him go for a spell, come back and show me something before I start backing him again.
Yeah, okay. So out of that race, you've got to take one horse into the Melbourne Cup. Who's it going to be?
I'd stick with Very Elegant, providing obviously it's not sort of a good 3 surface. And obviously Prince of Arran's right on target to run well again. And that'd be the main 2.
3,200, Very Elegant. Does that hold fears for you? She obviously does a lot wrong in her races.
It does a little bit. But she's sort of shown she can over-race a little bit and still perform. Like, she didn't settle the greatest on Saturday and was still quite strong through the line. So I'm happy to put some faith into Chris Waller that sort of he can train the horse right or have enough sort of stamina in her legs to get the 3,200. But, that's just out of the Caulfield Cup. She'd probably be my preference. Obviously, there's other horses to weigh up going to a Melbourne Cup. So, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
All right, we'll leave the Caulfield Cup there. We're going to go and look at the 3-year-old stays now in the Caulfield Classic, which was won by Alvarado. Obviously, we're going to get a few of these horses heading forward to the Derby. They didn't look to go too quick here. Balls in this race got very messy in the middle stages. Who should we keep an eye out for, and who do you think was disadvantaged or advantaged by when Luke Curry put up the anchor on Mr. Rogers there in front?
Yeah, so if we just fast forward a little bit past that hut, yep, perfect. The horses to look out for here are Alvarado, which is currently 3rd last in those bright green colours with the pink cap.
With the mouth wide open.
Yep. Also, the horse outside the leader is Let's Crack a Deal, is one to keep an eye out on. And then also we've got Hit the Shot, which is just ahead of Alvarado in those predominantly sort of yellow colours. He's definitely one to keep an eye on as well. And, we do get a bunch finish here, but they're sort of, I suppose, the main horses that I'd sort of want to be keeping an eye on.
All right, let's talk about Alvarado to start off. Obviously, not in a great spot here early on. If you've had the money on you, you start to get a little bit nervous. Did the pace coming out of the race help him at all to give him a track up, or has he done it as tough as what he seemed to look here?
Yeah, I think he's definitely the best run in the race. Or he's won the race, but sometimes you can not win the race and be the best run in the race. He's won the race and he's definitely the best run in the race to me. As you saw there early in the race, he got a bit keen. He was caught wide and had to ease back to find a spot. The paces dropped right out of the race here. And then as they get to about the 700 metre mark, Mark Zahra has taken off on the horse to sort of get round the field, sort of 3 and 4 wide. Plenty of credit in the win for Alvarado here. You can see sort of we're about to get to the 700 here where he does take off. He makes that long run all the way to the finish.
Yeah, so he does take off, and he's very entitled to lay down in the straight, and he just keeps sticking his neck out. Now, What did you make of the run of Let's Caracadil, who was very unlucky at Flemington before this run? Set on speed and looked gone at certain stages, but fought on as well.
Yeah, he was very green under pressure. As you can see about here, he's about to duck in under pressure quite severely, and he does look under pressure and in a bit of trouble, but sort of once he balances up again, he sort of comes again, he lays back down to the fence. So he's still doing plenty wrong. That was only his fourth race start, and he only just goes down. So even though he has sat on top of the slow speed there, I still think there's plenty of merit in the run, and there's definitely plenty of improvement in him given these racing manners. So the Maher Eustace stable, if they do go to a derby, they've got a couple of weeks to try and sort those out. Maybe a bit of gear will go on the horse, but he's one of many who is a chance in a race like the Derby.
Okay, hit the shot, really caught the eye steaming down the outside there in the fluoro green. What can you tell us about this horse?
Yeah, so he's, in all his runs in his career so far, he's looked like a real stayer. And he's the sort of horse, he'll love Flemington, he'll love 2,500. I suppose his little issue would be whether he's fast enough, whether there's more of a bit of a dynamic horse that could be have a couple of lengths on him. But if it turns into a staying test, he's one who will sort of keep coming. He wouldn't have been suited by the slow tempo on Saturday. He'd like a bit more of a genuine tempo, but he's run the best last 200 of the race. He was sort of strongest through the line there. So, yeah, you can make plenty of positives thoughts with him going towards the Derby.
Okay, Redwood Shadows there in those Mick Price white and blue colours, not far away at all either. He seemed to have a bit of a nicer run than the place getters there. Do you think there was more credit in their runs than Redwood Shadow? Is there still a bit more to come with that horse as well?
There's possibly more to come, but yeah, he did have every chance here to my eye. He pretty much tracked up the winner and peeled off its back at the top of the straight, and sort of halfway down the straight, I thought it was the winner. And he's just sort of wilted a little bit on his run, which did surprise me because he'd only had sort of 2 runs prior to this, but his last up maiden win at Ballarat, he was very strong through the line and looked like a real stayer. So maybe he's still got some improvement to come. Obviously, if he goes to the 2,500 next start, you probably would have liked to see him get through the line a bit harder. But once again, he's sort of thereabouts with a chance. But I'd have him probably sort of at least a length or 2 off horses like Alvarado, Hit the Spot, and Let's Caracadil.
Okay. Anything else you want to make mention of the Beaten Brigade? Obviously, Tour of Duty wasn't far away there at big odds, but seemed to have a pretty good run in the race, and the Prez was probably the disappointment of the race.
Yeah, the Prez, I suppose, had an excuse, sort of pulled up with an internal bleed, so obviously he's not barred from racing or anything like that off that, but sort of not the sort of preparation you want going into a derby, but whether they push on to that, it remains to be seen.
Okay, what do you think of this strength overall? Is this form we want to find in a derby, or?
Yeah, probably not, because it's such a bunch finish, such a slow tempo. It's sort of hard to make much of it. The thing is, Alvarado's start prior did run third at Flemington behind Quay and Young Verta. So I suppose that gives a bit of a franking of the form to those 2 horses. Now we'll obviously see some Derby hopefuls step out at Geelong on Wednesday in the Geelong Classic, and then the Vars on Saturday at Moonee Valley as well. So the Derby pitch is not that clear at the moment, but hopefully after those 2 races, it obviously becomes a bit more clearer, and then we can start putting the pen through a few.
All right, excellent. Let's look at something a bit shorter now. We'll go and look at the Moonga Stakes, which was won by Wild Planet, race 8 on the program at the 1,400 metres. I'll just pull up the race now. There we go. How was this run to suit balls? Was this similar to how you saw them running along, or any surprises pop up here on the map?
Yeah, they pretty much found their positions, I thought. They only went sort of at an even speed here. I thought they might go a bit faster with Morvada, Be Good to Your Mother, and Streets of Avalon all engaged in the race, but they sort of found their spots pretty early after the start, so that sort of sucked a bit of the speed out of the race. And a horse like Be Good to Your Mother seems to be his best form was going very fast in his races, but he's either not going well enough to do that at the moment, or they've decided to change tack for whatever reason. But yeah, it was only really an even speed here.
Yeah, both him and Streets of Avalon haven't really gone on from what we know they have, what they can do this prep. Now, the eventual winner, Wild Planets, in those Moroni... No, they're the Hawks colours, aren't they? They're the Lee colours. Master of Wine, the blue and yellow colours back there, midfield on the inside. Morrissey gets the trail behind the leader here in the red cap there, and 50 Stars runs into a place. Now he's 3 wide outside Wild Planet in those the Poisson Staloon colours, the white and blue checks with the green sleeves and cap. So they're the ones to keep an eye on for the finish. The favourite, Windstorm's back there, basically second last in the pink and white, and Best of Days is out the back there, who was well backed in the race but didn't really perform. We'll firstly talk about the eventual winner here, Wild Planet Balls. He came down from Sydney for this race. What did you make of his win, and where can he go?
Yeah, this was a good win. He's pretty much had every chance to my eye. He was coming off a midfield finish in the Epsom, but it was a pretty good run, considering I think it was his first go at a mile, and sort of back to 1400 I think suited him. But he's followed Morrissey here and got to the outside at the top of the straight, and it's been a bit too strong for Morrissey right at the end of the 1400. So he's obviously in good form at the moment. He won the start prior to the Epsom in Sydney as well, so he can be competitive sort of around that 1400 even to a mile. I'd assume he'd probably go to a Cantala Stakes next, which is a mile at Flemington. So a mile, he's definitely still needs to tick that box of a mile, but he's in the right form at the moment to have a go at it.
Okay, so he just beats Morrissey here. You see getting off heels around Be Good to Your Mother. I don't assume we'll see Morrissey at 1600, but I may be wrong.
Yeah, I think 1400's the upper limit of what he wants, but Morrissey was actually an acceptor for the Seymour Cup, which they ran yesterday, and was obviously scratched in favour of this race, which the Seymour Cup is a mile. So I assume the stable have got intentions of getting to a mile, and the horse is obviously going well. He's obviously hard and fit, so it wouldn't shock me if they have a go at a race like the Cantala. Given that, obviously the horse is up and going and he's got a good racing style, and sort of always puts himself into the race, so it might be worth having a go while you're up and going. Yeah,
do you want to be on him at a mile?
No, definitely not.
No, cool. That's enough for me. 50 Stars, we obviously know this horse has got plenty of class. 3 wide, no cover here, and keeps coming for third. Now, this is a horse that I'd like to be on if he gets to a mile.
Yeah, same. This is definitely the horse I want to take out of this race. As you mentioned, sat 3 wide, no cover. He was only second up, so obviously we'll have plenty of improvement to come. Goes third up into the Cantala, back to Flemington, which he loves. The mile he likes there at Flemington as well. If they get a bit of rain as well, so there's a bit of juice in the track, they can only enhance his chances. So, he's right on target for a race like the Cantala.
Okay, excellent. Just inside him there is Morvada, who ran a cheeky race here at good odds. Is there anything ahead for him?
Yeah, well, this horse seems to go under the radar a bit, I think. Like, his first up run at Flemington was excellent when he led on a fast tempo and held on pretty well. And he's done a pretty good job here, as you notice where Be Good to Your Mother and Streets of Avalon finished compared to him. And the thing is, his preferred surface is dry ground, so he's probably not as adept on soft tracks. So I don't think he's probably up to a race like the Cantala, but if he can find a lesser race during Cup Week at Flemington on dry ground, sort of 1400, 1600, where he can sort of get control in front, I think he can win a race. Win a race over Cup Week.
That raises a little interesting point for the track to me. Do you think that maybe we're on the better side of the soft six there if a horse like him is performing?
Possibly. He's not legless on a soft track. He has sort of gone okay on it before, but he's definitely preferred surfaces to dry track. But as you said, this race was sort of race 8 on the day, and by this stage, sort of the track had been drying out a bit. It was still in that soft 6 range, but it wasn't as obviously wasn't as wet as it was earlier in the card.
Which I guess Anthony Van Dyke, all the talk about him wanting the firm ground, the fact he ran well as well, that maybe it wasn't a genuine 6 by this time of the day. Funny that he doesn't like a wet track, and he's by Mossman. He's probably the first Mossman I've ever seen not to handle a soft track Morvada. Let's touch on Windstorm. We know this horse because it's been going around as favourite for basically the last couple of months. What can you make for this? Can you make any excuse for this run, Balls? This just didn't look as good as what we've been seeing from Windstorm.
No, yeah, it's hard to make. It's hard to take too many positives out of the run. I think he pretty much had the back of 50 stars in the run and hasn't been able to beat it home. So that's a bit of a knock on this run for Windstorm. It now goes to the Golden Eagle up in Sydney, and I'd say he'd be a long shot to be winning that based off this run. And even his win prior was he they went hard in front and he sat off the speed and they sort of set it up for him a bit. He's sort of only just going at the moment, I think, and race like the Golden Eagle, I think he'd be out of his depth at.
Interesting. I assume he'd be in the market though for a Golden Eagle, so that might be an opportunity there.
Yeah, he's probably thereabouts. I assume he would have drifted after his run on the weekend, but he's probably, I don't know, I haven't looked at a market, but he would be right out of it.
Those colours always seem to be. Finally, best of days. They report didn't handle the wet track. Is that something we already knew, or is that something to stash away?
Yeah, he'd done something on wet ground before. It wasn't sort of the end of the world, but he's another bit like Morvada who would prefer dry ground. But he's run really poorly there. But the didn't handle the track was used the excuse he just never ever got into the race.
Yeah, okay, cool. We'll leave that there for Caulfield because we've got one more massive race to get to, which was the Everest up there at Royal Randwick. First of all, before we look at the race, any bias to be aware of on this one, Balls?
No, watching the races in Sydney on Saturday, the track seemed to play pretty fair. There was no real advantage or disadvantage. A few horses were winning up the inside, but other horses were able to make ground out wide. So, I'd say it was a pretty fair track.
All right, we're going to see a pretty fair tempo here from Eduardo out in the yellow colours. As we let this run, he's going to come across and lead Nature Strip in the stripes there in the middle. They get ahead there of Dollar for Dollar and Hortbury on her, who sort of kicks up. They hold third and fourth, and this field really strings out. You've got some numbers for us on this lead time, Balls. This was lightning quick from Eduardo. Yeah,
they've really gone at a breakneck speed here. There was obviously a couple of other 1,200 metre races on the day. So if we look at them, how fast they've gone to the 600, Eduardo would have led the Kosciuszko by about 5 lengths at the 600 and then would have led the Sydney Stakes, which is pretty much the Everest Consolation, by 12 lengths at the 600. So, they've gone at breakneck speed here.
Yeah, okay. One more thing before I run the tape. We did talk about Gytrash when on the previous show we were looking at where they were going to settle down. Now, he's in the blue with the sort of the white hoops on the sleeves there. He slots in right behind Classic Legend early on. This was a surprise to me. It probably worked out in his favour given the hot speed of the 1200.
Yeah, he was a bit slowly away and was obviously back sort of in the last 3 or 4, which as you said was a surprise to you, was a surprise to me as well. But since they went so fast, he probably wasn't that disadvantaged being that far back. Obviously, maybe he would like to be 2 or 3 lengths closer, ideally. But it wasn't the end of the world.
Okay, and before I run this, obviously the winner, Classic Legends, the grey horse there in the white in the middle of the line. Bivouac's going to run second in the Godolphin colours wider out there. And Libertini was heavily backed. She's right on the outside there in the blue with the white cross, and she had trouble getting in. And given the tempo, if you can't get in on this tempo, you're basically cactus, aren't you?
Yeah, you definitely, from back in the field, if you're chasing the whole race, you're in all sorts.
Okay. We basically both found Classic Legend. He was your top pick on the preview show. I was with him here, but everything pointed this prep to this horse exploding here on Everest Day, and I think that's probably an understatement how well he's gone here. He's absolutely flown to the line. What did you make of his win? And I would say, what do we can expect from him? But he's about to go globetrotting now.
Yeah, it was an explosive win. Pretty much as soon as he got out here at the top of the straight, and by the 200, you knew he was home. A big part of his win, I think, was early in the race. He looked to be going to get caught wide. However, he managed to slot in front of Bivouac, and that was huge for him. And then here you see at the 200, he's about to go banging, like go straight past those leaders who are tiring, and puts the race away.
Yeah, so it did look very obvious in hindsight with that win there from Classic Legend. Now, something that wasn't obvious to me, I do know there was some people tipping Bivouac. We have talked about his ability to win slowly run races, but we were concerned about how he was going to show up in races of really strong tempos. Now, this is as strong a tempo as you could get, and he's flashed home here for second Bivouac. So I've had to reassess my thoughts on this horse. Are you doing the same?
A little bit. Like, obviously he's settled well back, so he sort of obviously hasn't been going as fast as the other horses. So that's sort of helped him, I suppose. If he was ridden like to settle a bit closer, that would have been to his disadvantage. But yeah, he's definitely outperformed how I thought he'd go. Full credit to him. He's run well in sort of a very fast run race. So he sort of, I suppose you'd almost say, he's now added another string to his bow.
Yeah, he definitely has there. So he's, we mentioned Gytrash, Trekking's come along basically home with them. Santa Ana Lane's run a slashing race out wide, but it's hard to win when you settle that far back. Let's talk about Nature Strip, because he was obviously one of the major talking points going into the race. Obviously, Eduardo going as fast as he did, that was against Nature Strip. He likes to control the race in front. But what did you make of his run? He's stuck on well. I'll be interested to know your thoughts on this run and going forward with Nature Strip.
Yeah, I definitely think it was a pass for Nature Strip. Like, he obviously sat right behind Eduardo, who was going very fast, and Nature Strip was too. And it's obviously he's a horse who likes to control his races. That's when he's at his best. So, and he wasn't able to do that here. So, yeah, I think he's gone okay. Like, I suppose the jury's still out a little bit on how he's going with his preparation. You couldn't say sort of back to his best. You still, I assume next start he'd probably go to the I think it's called the Darley Classic these days, down the straight at Flemington, which he won last spring as well. So I'd assume he'd go to that. He's obviously got a great record down the straight, and it probably suits him a little bit more because they generally run at a softer tempo down the straight, and he can get complete control there. But there is a horse called Fabergino who's possibly going to that race, who's a speed horse as well. So whether it goes to the race or not could be a big defining factor on Nature Strip's chances.
Yeah, okay. I think it's fair to say he was okay, Nature Strip. But one thing that worries me, Hortbury on Her has basically sat behind him and beaten him to the line. I reckon that just casts a bit of doubt on his run to me. Well, what do you think about that angle?
Yeah, I can. It's definitely got merit. The little thing I suppose you would say with Hortbury on Her is she is adept at sort of 1400 as well. So you'd probably expect if she's sitting hard on Nature Strip on that really fast tempo, she's probably going to be a bit stronger at the end. But obviously he could have burnt her off possibly, like if he was at her best. But there's definitely merit in that. That's obviously one angle you can take, that he's not going as well. Obviously there's the other angle you can take, that he's sort of gone okay and back to the straight would definitely suit him. So it'll be interesting once the Darley Classic comes along, what sort of price he is, and obviously what the opposition is as well.
Yeah, I was quite taken by the run of Hortbury on Her. She's only just missed a place there, racing pretty close to that hot speed. So I was pretty happy with that run. Anything else in the beaten brigade there, Balls? There's still a few options. A lot of these horses will go to that. It's almost the Everest follow-up in a couple of weeks, isn't it? That a lot of them will target for the bonus.
Yeah, the yes stakes. I'm not sure if that's the permanent name or not, but it's a bit of a stinker if it is.
I think they change it every year. It used to be the Red Zell.
The Classic Legend next year then.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, a lot of them will go to that. I know Gytrash is. You assume maybe Bivouac might. A lot of those would. bar the winners obviously off to Hong Kong. But yeah, most of the others, I assume, probably go to that over 1,300. Nature Strict, I think, is coming to Victoria though.
1,300 for Gytrash. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd probably risk him. Obviously, you want to see the makeup of the field and sort of how he'd map, but I'd want him definitely getting a nice soft run at 1,300. But yeah, at this stage, I'd be looking to risk him.
Yeah, I hope they go there with Hortbury on her. I think she might show up after that effort. Let's look at the week ahead. We don't have that coming up this weekend, but we've got another superb week of racing coming up in Melbourne. Friday night, we've got the Manikato Stakes rolling into the Moonee Valley meeting on Saturday with the Cox Plate, obviously. Now, with the back-to-back meetings, we're always watching the weather. We watch it every week, but we especially watch it this week because some rain on Friday could really do some damage to the track. We've been pretty lucky in recent years on the forecast-wise. What can we expect so far this week, Balls?
Yeah, so looking at the trusty Bureau of Meteorology, who have had a mare this spring, really, they're sort of taking a wide bracket. They're taking the field in the quaddie, it feels like, in the first leg, saying Friday possibly 1 to 10 mils of rain. So anywhere between 1 and 10 mils at this stage. So it could either get a brief shower or it could sort of bucket down a bit. So I'm not quite sure there. So yeah, even Saturday there's a bit of rain forecast. So it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. Obviously, as closer to the day, those forecasts will become a little bit more definite. And then you'll get a fair idea whether you can back Arcadia Queen or not, or whether it's going to assist Russian Camelot or not, or a few of the European horses as well. It's looking like a cracking Cox Plate this year.
Wise man once told me that they know when it's going to rain, but they can't tell you how much, Bomb. So that's something to keep in mind. Obviously, pattern around Moonee Valley is always important. So it doesn't matter what the forecast says. We're going to have to pay a close attention to each race as it comes. Now, I'm not going to hit you up for anything on the noms, even though we basically know the Cox Plate field already. Interested to see what they do with a couple of these ones down the bottom and whether they let them run. But I want to say a big thanks to everyone who supported the preview show last week. We did the Caulfield Cup and the Everest. We got a heap of great feedback. Obviously, people sort of liked what we had to do there, so we're going to back up again this week. We're going to do the Manikato and the Cox Plate. So no point asking you now, Balls. We'll really dive into those two races and look over it properly rather than just trying to make something up off the noms. So stay tuned for that. We'll be looking to get that up in plenty of time for both of those races. Keep an eye on the Twitter feed, Teach Me H Racing, or get along to our YouTube channel, just search for Teach Me Horse Racing, subscribe there, and you'll get a notification when that goes live. So we found a winner each week in the first couple of weeks we've done the preview show, Balls, and I've really been enjoying them. So I look forward to joining you on that. We might call the show there on that merit. Thanks as always for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon for the preview show.
Yeah, thanks, F. Look forward to it.
Cheers. See you.